meeting to order, please. Call the roll.
Ms. Bruley?
Here.
Ms. Escalante?
Here.
Dr. McFadden?
Here.
Mr. Monk?
Here.
Mr. Rickman?
Here.
Ms. Jarrett?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Quorum has been established. Next on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is a portion of the meeting, citizens' comments. This is a portion of the meeting where you, the citizens, can address the board with any of your questions, comments, or concerns. We ask that you come to the microphone and state your name and address. Also be mindful that you have 3 minutes to address the board. Also be mindful you may not receive a response to your particular inquiry here tonight. And last but not least, I ask that you address all comments to the chair. The agenda is now open for citizens' comments.
Hello, my name is Mary Campbell. I'm the Mount Clemens Education Association President. I would like to remind everyone that on March 10th on the ballot there is going to be the enhancement millage for our school districts called From Macomb for Kids. You can find more information out at the macombforkids.com if you're interested in finding more information. But it is an important millage for all of the schools in Macomb County, not only Mount Clemens, but for all of the districts here. And it's important for our children to get the money that we deserve. And we've been grossly underfunded, as we all know, from Lansing, and compared to both Oakland and Wayne County have their enhancement millages passed. So I'm hoping that Macomb County will also follow in suit. Also, I would be negligent not to mention that the DIA is also on the ballot on March 10th, and we are also encouraging that you continue that millage also. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The agenda is still open for citizens' comments.
Hello,
Good
my
evening.
name is Sarah Jones, and I'm the new Assistant Director at the Public Library, Mount Clemens Public Library. I'm just here to let you guys know that we have a meeting next week on Tuesday the 25th, and I'll leave some flyers if that's okay. We are doing a small renovation within the next month or two to our children's area, which is really exciting for us. If you've seen our children's area, it'll be exciting for you too. And we're having an open meeting to talk about the potential for a whole building renovation and what the community and other involved groups in the community might want to see in a renovation like that. You know, how can we work together? What might you need from us? What might we not be thinking of on our own? So we're having a public meeting. Anyone is welcome to come and share ideas, to talk about what we're already doing to the children's area and what we'd like to see in the rest of the building. So I just wanted to make sure that you all, as involved citizens, knew all about it. So that's it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your comments. Agenda is still open for citizens' comments. Last call, citizens' comments. Seeing or hearing none, moving the agenda. Next on the agenda, action item 5, the consent agenda. A, approval of the minutes for this January 22nd, 2020 regular meeting and the February 13th, 2020 board workshop committee of the whole. Chair would entertain a motion relative to agenda item 5A, the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for both of these meetings.
Moved by Member Jarrett to approve the minutes of the January 22nd, 2020 regular meeting and the February 13th, 2020 board workshop committee of the whole. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Ms. Escalante. Any questions, Mr. Brewer?
Thank you. I intend to vote in favor of it because I received the minutes by email, but I'm a bit distressed to find that there is no publicly available copy of our agenda for tonight and background information, which usually is over there. If I'm wrong about that, prove me wrong at this point, but
There is an agenda over.
there is an agenda like this, right?
Yes.
But is there a copy of the minutes?
Of the minutes?
Yes.
No, there isn't.
Okay, and there's no other copy of background information. So that if a citizen came in and did not get emailed, as we are emailed, they would have no ability to follow the meeting. We've always had a copy of this available, because I read mine emails, but I always come and use the paper copy.
Of the
So,
minutes?
I think this is,
Other board packages.
yeah,
I
I
never
think this
put
is a
that out
problem,
there.
and
We've never
I
put
think
that
that
out
we
there.
should have these available. I've always gotten at that desk a copy of the meeting for that evening, especially to look and see if there's any changes between what I got in the email form and what is officially brought forward. So I just think we need to have a copy available for the public at all times.
Can I make a comment?
We're dealing with the motion on the floor.
Right.
I should have stopped this conversation, because
Okay.
it had nothing to do
Okay.
with the motion on the floor.
Then I don't have any comments.
Any discussion regarding the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
Ms. Brewley?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dr. McFadden. I'm sorry.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 6, Business Committee. A, approval of bills for payment. Chair would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the payment of the bills.
Moved by Member Jarrett to approve the payment of the bills. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Dr. McFadden. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
Ms. Brewley?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Next item, item 7, the Emergency Operations Plan. A, request approval of the District Emergency Operations Plan. Mrs. Davis.
Thank you. We received a state grant for the emergency and protection of the school district, and we were one of a very few districts that received that grant. And when we applied, you had to give them your emergency operations plan, and when it was finalized, we did give that to you back in October. And at that time, the state was not requiring us to have a board approval. And we were just contacted recently asking, when did the board approve? So that is why this is the exact same plan that you got in October. But we have to have it officially approved by the board. So that's why it is included in the packet at this time.
All right, questions of the superintendent? We did see the plan back in October. Chair would entertain a motion relative to
Oh, go ahead.
agenda item 7. Agenda item 7.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Member Monk,
Support.
second by Member Escalante. Questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Monk.
Yes, this is a plan that's well needed. Ms. Davis, I would just say, just have your team review the plan, make sure all because when I looked through all 3 plans, there was some cell phone listings missing, and also we have Mr. Gibson still listed in that plan also. So we just need to get in there and update
Okay,
that.
yeah, we will have to, because when it was approved by the state,
Mhm.
yeah, and so this is what they approved, but yes, we will make sure that they
Okay.
update it.
All right.
So thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Brewley.
Yeah, at our committee discussion, which we had the document previously too, we also said that all, the plan is available at the principal's office in each building, that it's there and available for use, and there seemed to be, the copies needed to be updated, but there seemed to be the substance of the plan there at each place.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, concerns on the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes. Motion carries. Next, item 8, Policy Committee, Policy 164.2, revised. Mrs. Davis.
Yes, and I will turn it over to the policy committee, but it is a request to forego all of the committee meetings, still have a chair for each, but it would all, the work would be done in a workshop / special meeting, which we already have scheduled, would be the Thursday before the regular board meeting. And that way all committees would report at the same time. And there would be a time certain for each committee, for each committee to report. And if they did not need all of their time, they would, give, yes, thank you. I couldn't yield their time to the next committee, or we could end early. So that was the brunt of this recommendation, that the board review it for a first reading. And anything you would like to add, Mr. Mark?
No, I mean, that's, yeah, it's, it came up as a item at our committee with one of our board members bringing it to the table. Yeah. And I'll say this about this, and I think this is a good thing for us. It's not about the amount of time you meet. It's about the quantity and quality of time that you meet. We all have busy schedules, and in the past, some of our meetings have gone left or right, and we haven't stayed on what it is that we need to do. But this will also give the superintendent an opportunity to concentrate more on the day-to-day operations of this district. With us coming out of deficit, with us looking at curriculum, and we felt at the committee that 7, 8 pair of eyes looking at each individual subject is better than 2 or 3.
Trying to find a particular language change.
I don't see it in our stuff. Is there?
Can you
I got it right.
show us what the particular language change is, the current language, and
Okay.
what the proposed language is, because I couldn't find it.
All right, I'll just read the, I'll read the whole entirety so the public knows also. The Policy Committee met on 2/11 to deliberate on the subject of committee meetings with the information provided by the superintendent from our legal counsel opinion. We reviewed our current policy on committee meetings based on all information gathered and discussed. We, the Policy Committee, recommend the following. We recommend that the full board move to adopt a committee of the whole meetings for the following committees: Curriculum Personnel, Finance, Policy, to take place during the same time, 6:30 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month as needed, instead of board workshops, Policy 0168.3. And I believe we have some change in that policy. But this is the first reading, so we agree that this will allow all board members to be well informed on all committee information. Current chairpersons will present information at the meeting for discussion and recommendations to the full board. Each chairperson will be allowed a block of time to disseminate their information when needed. This will allow better streamlined communication going forward. We feel that this will cut down on the amount of time and days the superintendent and board members are meeting. freeing up the superintendent to focus on more of the day-to-day operations in our district.
I have a question that,
Yes.
just looking at this, it says it's addressing policy 164.2. 160.4, I thought we were talking about committees. 164.2 refers to special meetings.
That's incorrect.
I'm looking
Oh,
at
and
it.
I understand.
I'm looking at it right here.
Right, no, I put in here, it was policy 0168.3, which is committee meetings.
Okay, but I'm just.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
I'll correct that.
Yes, policy 0168.3.
6A.
Yeah.
Ah, here we go. There. There we go. I knew there was something funny about this part. That makes more sense. No, sorry.
Okay, I see the current language. I just like, is there somewhere, in the board packet where the proposed language is? I'm seeing
It
the
should,
current.
I have it in my board packet,
Okay,
it
'cause,
should.
it was,
Right,
it
right.
was so thick.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Has the committee considered who will call a meeting? Who determines whether or not a particular committee meeting is warranted or is needed? For example, if there's no policies to
Right.
address, who says for that? Who determines? I think you heard you say as needed.
As needed.
Who determines when it's needed?
Well, the chairs will do that. With me being the chair of the policy.
And I wasn't picking on you. I just
Right,
used the
yeah.
policy as.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Example.
With me being the chair of the policy and with Ms. Jarrett being chair of the finance and Dr. McFadden being chair of curriculum and personnel, we know what items will come up for discussion during that time. Like, okay, I'll take policy for instance. We know the policy, big packets of policy come out in October, I want to say March or April.
Yep.
We have big policy packets come out. Outside of that, we really don't. We're dealing with maybe something that's come up during the course of business. Those will be where it's that me as chair will request a meeting of the whole for the policy, and likewise for the other committees. And then those will be handled, and then it would be my responsibility to disseminate and get that information out to all my board members. So when we come to the meeting, we that talk about the policy, but everybody be informed at the same exact time. So, but if I don't have any policies, then, and say if curriculum personnel and finance has information, well, we know finance takes care of every month because we got to review everything. So that means that my time won't be used, and that'll be a lot of time more for other two committees.
Who, trying to grasp around who determines what is what, because right now, the committee information is provided and disseminated to the committee from the superintendent. If we pull in the superintendent out of that mix, who will determine what items will be brought forward to the committee?
Okay, say that again. You kind of lost me there.
Right now,
Okay.
for committee meetings,
Mm-hmm.
the superintendent and her staff recommends the items to be discussed at the committee meetings
Right.
and provides that information. What is the role of the superintendent if we automatically have these committee of the whole workshops who provides, determine what information and what is to be discussed.
That still comes from the superintendent, but what happens is that instead of having 3 different meetings, we're having 1 meeting. So that information is still disseminated from the superintendent, but we're having 1 meeting. I mean, we've had meetings where it's that, we have a meeting for a specific reason, and it gets hijacked, and it turns into another meeting for something else. And then we sit here, and then we kind of schedule another meeting to talk about the original stuff we was supposed to talk about, and we didn't talk about. This way, we will have a more streamlined, it'll be disseminated from the superintendent, because the superintendent gets the policies, and I'm just using policies, so I'm speaking about policy. So when the policies come in, she'll contact me as a chair. Mr. Monk, we got policies? Okay, superintendent, let's schedule a meeting of the whole instead of the workshop. That's why I put in there as needed. Let's schedule a meeting of the whole as a work instead of the workshop, and then we'll discuss those policies. But if there's no policy to be talked about, we won't schedule, as far as my part. Like I said, it's 3 chairs. So we all may be presenting, one of us may be presenting, 2 of us may be presenting. It all depends on what information needs to be talked about.
Any other questions, discussion?
I have a question. I'm just trying to figure out how to ask this question. So, the superintendent is the one that gives the information to the committees initially. Right? So she's going to give the information to the committee chair.
Right.
And then the committee chair is going to give the information to the rest of the board.
Right.
So she will call me, say, hey, Doc, we're going to talk about this. Then I have to call the meeting for the committee of the whole.
If
Right.
you have stuff to discuss.
If you have stuff, yeah.
If
you
there's
have
personnel
yeah,
issues.
If there are issues to be presented.
Okay. But wouldn't it be quicker instead of saying, she had the information, she calls me up or email me or whatever, says, we're going to be talking about this. Or she can just say, we got a committee meeting here and we have 3 board members all show up, and then the discussion of this is the topic, because I'm only one person. Someone else might have a question on curriculum that I never even thought to ask. So out of those 3 people, like yourself or Ms. Walker, they might say, well, what about this? Or what about that? Then that discussion comes up in that committee and then comes to the rest of the board. I understand the committee of the whole.
Right.
Absolutely, but to me, it seems like it's more work. That's just how I look at it. It just seems like more work, because she won't talk to you. And yours is a little different, because policy is, usually it's revised in stone. Something comes from the feds or whatever, the state, and that's, policy is policy. It's revision, read it, whatever we're going to do about it. But when it comes to curriculum discussions or personnel discussions, those are totally different animals, especially when it comes to personnel. So we're going to have a committee of the whole, and we're going to talk about personnel situations. But as a committee of the whole, that whole meeting could be like an executive session, because it can't be presented, when we talk about contracts or talking about hiring or firing or whatever. It can't be presented as to the public, because then the person that we're talking about, it violates their rights. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
So maybe not all 3 committees, or is it 4 committees? I can't see it being all 4 committees as a committee of the whole, because with the curriculum, personnel, especially personnel, that's a touchy subject. You can't put that out without a discussion, especially with something that might go into executive session.
That's if you're using names, and that's if you're using personal information. If you're not using personal information, say like if you're talking about structure, organization, that's totally fine for a public meeting. You're not using any personal information of any employees. But if you get into using personal names and everything, employees, yes, that would be considered an executive session, which will fall up under special meetings. Okay? But if you're talking day-to-day operations and you're not using names or anything, that's total public information.
It is public information, but our district being so small, so if I was to say position, say we need to change The high school principal. But we only got one high school. So that already just by default, they know what we're talking about. Or if we say we need to change a principal, we only got what, 2 principals? Three principals. We only have 3 principals. So by default, it's like, okay, they're talking about one of these principals, and when the conversation gets in depth, they can narrow it down. They say, well, they ain't talking about the high school, so it must be, you understand what I'm saying? You don't even have to say a name for someone to say who it is.
But if we're talking about sensitive information, then that should come from the superintendent saying we'll be discussing sensitive information, which I feel that should be in executive session. And that'll come from Ms. Davis.
But we just can't go into executive session on, we just
General
can't.
discussion.
There's some rules and guidelines for executive session.
Exactly. Just can't go on any time for anything.
Yeah.
Right, I agree with that. Okay.
You ask her.
And that's, I don't want to, violate that policy.
Right. Well, we don't want to violate no policy, okay? What we're trying to do, and what we're trying to recommend, not what we're trying to do, what we're trying to recommend to the board is that we want all members to have all information equally. There's been times where members of this board don't get the information they're supposed to have, and we come to a board meeting on camera in a board session, and we're totally blindsided. That had happened. So to prevent that, committees of the whole, now if you don't show up, that's on you. Then you gotta either get with the chair or Ms. Davis and get that information. But the committee of the whole give you an opportunity to come in and listen to the information that's being presented, because that's our job.
So are we saying, from the policy committee, you want to do away with the committees?
Committees of the whole. We're not doing away with committees, it's committees of the whole. The individual meeting of committees, yes.
That's getting rid of the committees.
Okay, well, yeah.
It's
Get
kind
rid
of
of
get rid of the committee.
Okay, all
So
right.
basically, so personnel and like personnel and curriculum
Mhm.
be one animal,
Right.
and that committee
Finance.
would go away. That'd just be a additional meeting of the month where we discuss personnel and curriculum. And then another meeting time of the month would be business and policy. So there won't be no need for no policy chair then, or no chair of any committee, because she'd be running the meeting, and then the president be.
No, the chairs will still stay in place because we still have members that is dealing with policy. We got 3 members dealing with policy. We got 3 members dealing with curriculum personnel. We got 3 members dealing with finance.
Not if you go to the committee of wholes, everybody is dealing with it based
Well,
on what I'm
everybody,
hearing.
right,
So
everybody
it's
has
no
an
longer
opportunity.
3 people.
Everybody listens to the presentation, then you have an opportunity to give your input. Instead of doing it at the last minute of the board meeting, I have an opportunity to give my input at a committee meeting of the whole.
But the presentation would be from the superintendent and the curriculum director. Because if I, say she said, this is what we need to talk about,
Okay?
we have that meeting, it's not like I'm gonna meet with her as an individual before the meeting, okay, what you gotta tell me, get my information out, okay, I got it. Then we come to the meeting as a whole and say, okay, I got this piece, I'm gonna direct it and talk about it, because she's sitting right there. Why would I do that? I mean, she knows the information, I'm just relaying stuff, I'll be doing this. That's right. Superintendent, that's correct, right? Or I have Ms. Jensen, that's correct, right? Because they're gonna be basically giving the information out. Now, my question is, are we getting rid of the committees? Or you just wanna add another meeting?
Well, according to our president, we're getting rid of the committees.
Yeah, if based on, if everything is a committee of the whole, then there's no 3 committee members. Everything is a committee of the whole. That's what committee of the whole is, the whole. So there would be no, you'd be, in essence, getting rid of committees. And it's, to go to all the committee of the whole structure. So there wouldn't be 3 people dealing with that. It would be the whole, everybody, the whole. And I'm trying to, see how this is a better mousetrap, but we already have the ability to create or call for a committee of the whole meeting when we deem it's necessary. We know every month you're gonna have a business and finance committee meeting. That's every month, because you gotta pay the bills, so there's strategies and things that they talk about. But I'm just, and this is just the first reading, and, I'll read stuff and then regurgitate and digest it and reassemble and put it back together. But we already have the capability as a board to call a committee of the whole meeting whenever we deem it necessary. I don't believe that, just looking at this at point surface, I don't believe it's a better mousetrap for us to operate. Jared.
Mr. Brewer here.
And
No,
actually, I had a statement. One, the Finance and Business Committee currently meets, and it's almost a 2-hour meeting, 2.5-hour meeting, and that goes over all the stuff that's in your packet that we send out, and we have to go through that, because again, the same thing, we have to pay the bills. So all of that has to be gone through, so every month we have to do that if we do that as a committee as a whole. And that's where I fear that there's some, I agree that if we have something that has to be talked about, like something as far as curriculum, there's always, that is really huge. Each of the committees, if we are not meeting as a committee in a committee setting with the superintendent where we're doing the business and the finance and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that's involved in it. I got the packet right here. So, we had to go through all that. And when we talked about this on the policy and stuff, it sounds like a good idea, but how much time are you going to devote to this business and finance? Because that is every month, and we have to go through that at this meeting and approve those things. The curriculum is the other huge piece, and I know that the policies, we don't always have policies, and so there's some leeway there. But we have other things that we have to take care of to me, that committee as a whole on Thursdays, we have other issues that we have to discuss in those meetings so we can, to bring things forward and stuff. So I don't know, I'm conflicted, and I don't want to have a 5-hour committee of a whole, just saying.
Mr. Brewer.
When Ms. Jansen came and made the presentation to us as a committee of the whole, we had already had most of that information presented to us at a curriculum committee meeting. So that was fortunately my second time, but it was half the board's first time. And what I think the attempt is to create so that information is given to the whole board in the same way from the beginning. That those things that we feel we should spend more time on, we can highlight and do it. And those things that we think are routine, we can examine them, but go through it. The finance, we can go through the regular, it doesn't take 2 hours to go through the regular finance agenda, because you also get information of a secondhand nature on other issues. Each committee, let me use this as an example. I think the superintendent explained the emergency procedures at finance in other committees also. So a lot of things are repeated. If we had one meeting where we all focused and we all got the same information at the same time, it would give us a better focus in not leaving things out. Because there have been times when things get left out here or there. There is another aspect to this, that if we are having things come to the board from committees, there's a concern that the Open Meetings Act needs to be followed, and with the workshop that's posted, and we're covered. The way it happens now, there's some question about whether, if you read our bylaws, about whether we can, in these private committee settings, really forward on to the board information, because you're supposed to only do that when you have an open meeting. And to my information, I thought most of these were posted, and apparently that wasn't the case. So there's a concern on how, even if we look at them and we forward it on, that's supposed to be part of a process, to my understanding, of a posted meeting. So we are merely taking the meetings we have, having them at a night we've established for workshops, so that we're all aware and all involved. We're rescheduling. The chairs will be the chairs, to my understanding, of that particular portion of the meeting. And we'll just proceed, but we'll all have knowledge of what's going on.
Ms. Davis?
I have two questions for clarification, I guess. One is, at the committee of the whole, let's say finance, because we do that every month, we will go over everything there, and you were concerned about hearing it twice. You go over it at the committee of the whole because no decisions are made at those, you're just discussing. So you're going to hear it again anyway at the regular meeting. So we're going to repeat the same thing to the same 7 people so that we can get it approved. So that's one question I'm having. You're still going to see it twice, hear it twice, so why would that be an issue? The second is, recently we had a committee of the whole, and we didn't get a quorum. The people were there to present, they presented, but it wasn't a quorum. So it was for naught, and we had to reschedule it, and it was not like nobody knew about it. We had to reschedule it and repeat the same information again for the other people. So is that what we're going to get into? Folks decide not to come, and we're going to have to, if the onus is going to be on us again to present it again so that everybody could hear it. I mean, it wasn't the staff's fault that the board didn't show up. We did what we were supposed to. So now if people don't show up at the committee of the whole, the onus is going to be on us again to schedule it again and hope people come so that the committee of the whole can hear the same information.
Mr. Brooklyn?
I don't think that's the case. I think that we have these workshop meetings scheduled, and I think that you're not going to take final action there. So it would be the same process as if a person is coming on Tuesdays at 9:30 in the morning as if they're coming on Thursday night, and in fact should decrease the need, because at the meetings that I've attended, not everyone is even able to attend those meetings. And we don't call for a second finance committee to be held. It happens once a month. If you're there, you're there, and if you're not, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing would be true of the Thursday night, which has been the suggested time. If you're there, you're there, and if you're not, you're not. And then the next meeting we have is our regular board meeting. So it would process the same way, and there would be no extra meetings held.
But that's what happened. That's what happened.
What date
It
are
was
you referring to?
It was the curriculum when everybody got all that information. That was, we had a committee of the whole, and
I think it was
Mr.
November, wasn't it in November? maybe?
Yeah, it was a committee of the whole schedule, and with just 2 people showed up, and we had to schedule it again.
Well,
So, in a committee of the whole, you have to have a quorum. So, what you're saying is, if we do this, and people decide not to show up, the onus again,
well, but that is true of any, that's true of any situation that we're in terms of having a quorum. So, I don't,
But I'm
then we
looking-
just cancel.
But I'm looking at business. Okay, business meet. No, the information is not given out twice. Business meet, y'all go over the bills, y'all do, you go over the information, whatever. You come to the board meeting, and it's an action item. So the only thing, if there's no dissemination as far as what y'all talked about in that 2-hour business meeting, that's all it is it says approval of bills payment. So we take a vote, approve the bills, then we move on. So there's no second. That's all Ed do is like, we looked over the bills, everything is in order. That's it.
But your colleague said that he hears it twice, just like at the curriculum. Yes, we talk about it at curriculum meeting, and then we have to come here and talk about it, so that the whole can hear it.
that wasn't an objection on my part to hearing it at the committee and hearing it here. The point I was trying to make is that half the board hadn't heard it. I don't mind hearing it twice. I think all the board, what this will allow is for everyone at the board to hear it in a committee setting, everyone, not just 2 or 3 of us. Everyone can hear it. And then everyone hears it again at the main meeting, and we try to get the questions. We flag things that are questionable, that we try to get more answers to, so that this meeting then does proceed on a more quick pace, as opposed to people not having the ability to ask in a more detailed fashion, in a more informal way, their questions. It only sets up, I think, a pretty streamlined situation that everyone has the ability. And I think the comment was that if you don't come to that Thursday meeting, then that is your responsibility to find it out, your information, before the regular board meeting. That was, so I don't mind hearing it twice.
Okay.
I don't mind sitting through a third time if it's needed for other board members to hear it over again. But I think this allows all the board members to at least hear it once before the main meeting.
Okay. And if there's no quorum, do we have to do it again?
No.
Or we just cancel it?
I don't think so, because it's a committee meeting at which you can't take any action on anyway. I don't think, now, I would hope that in that November, I had let you know I wouldn't be there. I would hope that people would let the office know whether or not they could attend, so that situation wouldn't have happened. I know I was out of the country then, and I had told you my dates for being gone. I would hope that others would do the same, so that you wouldn't end up with that situation. But that's the only one that I know of in the last year. So I don't know the special circumstances of that.
Okay.
Okay, so right now we have a regular board meeting, and we have a workshop every month. Are we adding another workshop or another meeting, or are we changing the workshop to a committee meeting? That's what we're doing?
Because what happens is that we have these committee meetings, and if the information is not disseminated out to all board members, case in point, me. If there's a meeting, curriculum, personnel, I was supposed to get the information, but I didn't. And then I have questions because it just so happened we discussed it. And when you and Ms. Davis was talking, I was like, okay, I had no idea what was discussed.
Okay, the reason I asked about the 2 meetings, if we already have a workshop, instead of making a whole new meeting, why don't you just put on an agenda, curriculum, business, personnel, or whoever, and if something needs to be discussed for that month, we just discuss that 10-minute, 15-minute slide or whatever. And if you don't have nothing to present,
Yeah, that was the original idea. Everybody get a certain slot. Okay, let's say everybody get a half an hour slot or a 45-minute slot. Okay? If I ain't got nothing to talk about, then you or Ms. Jarrett is free to use my time to discuss whatever y'all need to discuss. Y'all don't need my time, then you don't need it. But if you do need that extra time, you do. I don't have anything to present, and vice versa.
basically what I'm saying is, I don't see why this needs to be a amendment to a policy. That's just more of an amendment to an agenda. Just say, we have our board workshop this month. Put on there, we need to discuss a little bit about curriculum, let everybody know what's going on. Or some about business, the roof falling down, we need to discuss some business things at the workshop. I'm trying to wrap my head around, why do we need to amend the policy to amend the agenda?
Because we was approaching it from the committee of the whole. So you're saying not to approach it from the committee of the whole.
But we
You're
already-
saying, what you're saying is that just amend the agenda of the workshop, what you're saying.
Because it is a workshop of the whole though, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying, yes. That's
Right.
exactly what I'm saying, absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
So, okay.
It's kind of the same thing. I mean, call it a different name.
Okay, so what happens to the committees? Do the committees still meet or they don't meet?
The
Right, they
committees
have
will
them here.
still need to meet.
So now we're back to, take myself, now you're back to me. I got board meeting, workshop, personnel, personnel and curriculum personnel and policy. Outside of, if there's a special meeting that month, or, you know, or there, whatever, or there's an executive session that month.
So this goes back to my first original question. So we're doing away with the committees? That was my first question. So are we doing away with the committees?
Yes.
Okay, that was my first question.
Jared.
I have no comment right now. I will,
Um,
I gotta think about it.
And if we don't receive information from the committees, that is the responsibility of the chair of the committee to provide a copy of the agenda that the committee had and highlight the outcomes of that. Then, if we would do that, then you wouldn't have board members that didn't see any of the information. Now, sometimes the chairs send out information after they had their meeting, sometimes they don't. That's, that's human nature.
And that's been the issue.
That's human nature. I have not gotten everybody reports from chairs, from every committee. Not singling out any particular committee, but there's times I didn't get the minutes or the agenda from a particular committee, and then it comes to the board table, and it's being presented at the board table sometime. I got to read my packet, but that is one of the responsibilities of the committee chair, is to disseminate what was discussed at the committee meeting to the 4 members of the board that weren't at the committee. Excuse me. This is a policy revision that's for submitted for a first reading. Is there any more discussion? If there's any particular changes or ideas that you have for anything, like always with policy, you can provide that information to the members of the policy committee, and also CC it to the rest of the board, and then we'll all know what we're thinking about, as opposed to just the 3 committee members. If you're going to send something to the committee chair, CC it to the rest of the board, and we'll all see what we're thinking. That's just my thoughts on it. Mr. I thought.
Scratching my head.
Any other discussion around agenda item 8, policy committee policy revision, submitted as a first reading?
Do you need to have it moved or any of that?
Since this is a first reading, we have to move the submitted for first reading, like we do any other policy.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monk, second by Dr. McFadden. Questions, comments, concerns on the motion on the floor?
Good idea to me.
Seeing or hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
No. Motion carries. Next item. Item 9, personnel issue, executive session for the purpose of attorney-client privileges. Attorney, okay, did I say something wrong? Stated wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
It's for purposes of negotiations under Section 8C.
Thank you.
Open Meetings Act.
Executive session will be for the purpose of negotiations.
President, I move to go into executive session for, what's that wording again?
The purpose of
Purpose of
negotiations.
negotiations.
It's been moved by Dr. McFadden to move into executive session for the purpose of negotiations.
Support.
Second, Ms. Jarrett. Any questions, comments, discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing or hearing none, call roll, please.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes. Motion carries. The board will go into executive session at 7:25 p.m. Chair would entertain a motion to come out of executive session. Moved by Dr. McFadden,
Support.
second by Ms. Escalante. Any questions, comments on the motion on the floor to come out of executive session? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Ms. Escalante?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes. Motion carries. Meeting is out of executive session at 8:45 p.m. Next on the agenda, information items. Item 10, reports from the Business Committee. 10A, financial report. Any questions regarding the financial reports? Item B, open purchase order listings. Any questions on item B? Item C, contract listings. Any questions on contract listings? Item D, Carnes Center. See your hand? Oh. King, yes.
Was there a result of, I thought you were going to go to court between our meeting and this? Was I?
No, I didn't.
Incorrect?
They did. I just sent them, I had to sign off on that affidavit, and they were taken care of, and I understand it. I have to call legal, but I understand something's supposed to be happening on Monday, so I will follow up on that.
Any additional questions? Item D, Carnes Center. Item E, request for proposals. We have a waste disposal RFP in the works.
Yes, we submitted that, so we're waiting to hear back from hopefully the bidders. They'll be in at the end of this month. Yeah.
Any questions? Enhancement millage, F. Any questions? Mount Clemens, G, Mount Clemens Cable Commission.
And that was just a financial report.
Mr. Brewley.
Well, this was a new report that's going to be given to us now that we had not previously received, so we're going to now be updated with this.
Thank you. Item 11, superintendent's comments. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. We have a few outstanding students that I just wanted to make sure I highlighted. One is Javon Hannah. He made, 60-plus points?
Scored 60 points.
60 points at one of our games last week, or a couple weeks ago. And so I just want to say congratulations to him. That was a huge record that he set. I believe he broke 2 records. He's one of, I believe it's 6 middle, what grade is it? 10th graders. One of 10th graders in the country that hit 1,000 points in his career thus far. And so that is huge at such a young age to be able to do that. And then the other one was that he broke the record in Mount Clemens for the most points scored in a single game. So we want to say congratulations, Mr. Hanna, and we know great things are going to continue to come from you. Also, we have 2 students, one that placed second place winner at the Macomb County M.L. King Digital Photography Contest. And that was Miss Jayden Tillman. And so we want to say congratulations to her for winning second place. And then third place winner was Miss Shayana Patterson. So congratulations to you. We are very proud of you both, and we know great things are going to continue to happen with you guys. Our girls and boys basketball teams won last week, and their tournaments that they were in, so it was a great game. Both of them were great games, and they did us proud. They were on Saturdays, and I attended both, so they were really good. And I know Mr. Rickman and a number of our teachers, the staff were there, so thank you guys for showing support for our students. And at this time, that's it. Welcome back. We're glad to have all of you back. Although you've only gone, 3.5 days, it felt like a week. So we're glad to have you back in the building. So, and enjoy the rest of the year.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Item 12, committee reports. Business Finance.
Everything was, we had our meeting, everything was worked out fine. We had all the reports in there. Received the information about the waste management, which we already discussed, and it was in your packet. Other than that, everything was business as usual.
Any questions of the chair? Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lindenberg.
Yes, sir. On behalf of the Community Coalition, we will not be meeting. This will happen the day before, a lovely day of the year, St. Patrick's Day. We're having a sober party over at the First United Methodist Church right across the street for those who want something different for St. Patrick's Day that does not involve alcohol consumption. It'll be happening from 6 to 9. There's a $7 registration, or you can go with this little QR code if you guys want to register. This is also on our Facebook page, and that is being sponsored by the Coalition and some members of CARE Southeastern Macomb. So that's something we are sponsoring for the community. We'll be meeting next Wednesday in this room at 2:30 if anybody cares to join us.
Any questions of Mr. Lindenberg? Thank you, Mr. Lindenberg.
And go Brock.
Curriculum Personnel.
Okay, we met Tuesday, February 11th at 1:30. Main things we discussed was transition reconfiguration of the admin team. As we know that the superintendent saw me last year here. We're looking at reworking the at-risk grant funds to hire another social worker. Looking at funds from the at-risk and special education grants, which is something we've been talking about around this board table for quite a bit. So that will give us 2 full social workers, hopefully, if everything goes in right configuration. One at the secondary complex and one for the elementary buildings. We're also looking at possibly when we do the superintendent search, that type of information, get that on a high, strong curriculum academic background. We're looking at also some other cost-saving measures. With the grants we have, our proposed plan is actually 1 additional social worker, reconfiguring human resource, special education individual, possibly some help for the principals, 2 new assistant principals, 2 at risk. Now all these positions already exist. I'm not adding new positions except for the 2 assistant principals, social worker, new CFO, new superintendent, and an early child care coordinator. We did not speak or talk about anything about a grant writer or any marketing director or anything like that, but we did talk about all these other things here. We're looking at making most of this happen with the grants that we have in place, so not out of the general fund. We have a risk grant, what's the other one? Special education grant, and there's another grant that,
TSRP.
TSRP. So we try to use those figures, that money we already have, move it around to make it work. That's it. Any questions for me?
Any questions, Mr. Brewley?
Well, I don't know who to direct this to, but at our workshop, we talked about having the people come in and explain to us the process. Do we have any dates for those meetings?
I was gonna
Okay.
talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on his head. Any other questions for me? Okay.
Thank you. Educational Foundation, they reported out at the last meeting. They didn't have we didn't have a meeting this month. Takes us to E. Mr. Monk, anything additionally from the policy committee?
We met on the 11th at 5 o'clock. Paul gave us an update on the Neola training that should be up and going within the next month. We got a update on administrative guidelines. Ms. Davis said that her administration staff has completed those. Read my notes here. We discussed committee meetings and the amendment that was presented tonight. And we discussed that the superintendent is going to meet with our special education director to determine what options that the district has in a situation that continues to disrupt the learning environment in the elementary. And outside of that, that was it.
Any questions of the chair? Thank you, Mr. Monk. Legislative committee, I did not go. I went to announce Mount Clemens basketball game. On the same night. Madam Superintendent, did superintendents have anything that they're looking at coming out of the legislation?
No, not to report at this time.
All right. Item 13, board comments. Mrs. Escalante.
I hope everybody has a great rest of their week. I don't have much more to say beyond that.
Thank you. Dr. McFadden.
Well, hey, I just want to say it's good to be back in this seat and see where we go forward. And I know we got a lot of things to do with these committees and this policy revisit or first reading. And I'm looking forward to it. That's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. Excuse me, Dr. McFadden. Mr. Monk.
Thank you. Congratulations, Javon. Been knowing you since you was knee-high to a grasshopper. Good to see that. I actually came in on the tail end of the game, and he just looked so comfortable shooting his jump shot. So congratulations. I know you're going to do big things. Looking forward to the rest of the year. Go Bathers. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. Mr. Brewley.
March 10th will be a very important election. Whichever way you're going to vote, I want you to vote March 10th. If anyone has any questions or has a problem getting a ballot, because everyone may vote absentee, the law has changed. You don't have to go to the voting booth. You can vote from home. My number's in the phone book, 465-4252, and I would be happy to answer any questions or help people obtain a ballot to vote however you want if you were to call.
Thank you, Mr. Brewley. Mrs. Jarrett.
You know, spring's right around the corner, so I want everybody to spring forward. Don't forget that in March, we're going to be springing forward. And because spring is coming, spring is coming, so be optimistic. We can do many, many things here in Mount Clemens, so I'm very excited that we are back, even if it was only 3 days out. Stay healthy, do good in school, and once a bather, always a bather. Hoorah.
Thank you, Ms. Jarrett. I would like to say congratulations to the Lady Bathers. They've had a good season thus far, and they won the quarterfinals of the CSC tournament. I'm not sure when they play again. They might have played tonight. Also, congratulations goes out to the Mount Clemens Battling Bathers. They finished second in the CSC during the regular season. They competed tonight at Summit High School. Their game began at 7 p.m. They're in the semifinals of the CSC tournament. All things, if you look at it on paper, they should have beaten the team that they played tonight, matching them up with a rematch against Chandler Park, which was the team that won the league, that beat Mount Clemens to win the league. So we have a grudge match. Also, congratulations goes out to Mr. Javon Hanna and the team, because the team really wanted that record for him more than himself. I was at the game, I announced the game, and you could see players giving the ball up. I mean, guys had a chance to go for a layup, open layup. They threw the ball out to Javon because they wanted him to get that record. So that was not only a personal accomplishment on his behalf, but a team accomplishment, because if you talk to any of the kids, they were just as happy because they said, oh, I wanted to see him do it. That's why we kept feeding him the ball. We wanted to see him break the record. So congratulations to him on an individual note, and to the team for being a team and really wanting that for him. And also, congratulations to Mr. Javon Hanna. He was the Charter School Conference League MVP this year. He was also a member of the Charter School First Team All-Academic team. So there's an example of a scholar athlete taking care of business in the classroom and getting it done in the athletic field. So congratulations to him and his parents. We all know the Hannas. Reason why it's so good, because when he was a little kid, he used to stay with his grandmother, and I used to, slap him around and get him tough, But kudos and congratulations out to those teams. And it seems like it was just last week that we were starting school, and here we are more than halfway through the school year, and you still have time to get some work done. If you know you're slacking or slacked up in the first quarter, first semester, it's a cumulative thing. You still have to continue to try to do better and to improve yourself. So you still have that time and the opportunity to do that. We still have time in the school year. Mr. Bruley had talked about the enhancement millage on, March 10th. Mount Clemens, if this, it's a county-wide millage. It's not just the millage for the Mount Clemens Community School District. It's a millage for all public schools in Macomb County. If the millage is successful, Mount Clemens could gain from this millage in the neighborhood of $400,000 or a little more. So it would be a chunk of money that we drastically could use and very direly need, and this is an opportunity to be able to assist the school district by casting a ballot. Ms. Jarrett mentioned about spring coming and daylight saving time is coming. It's something in the universe that wanted me to become a year older, an hour earlier, because spring forward is on my birthday, so I'm gonna have only 23 hours to celebrate my birthday, and an hour earlier, getting older than I should have been.
You still celebrate birthday?
Yeah, man, every one of them. I'm glad to be here. Those are my comments. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monk, second by Dr. McFadden. Call the roll, please. Oh, I'm sorry, before we go, Mr. Brewley, I've been in contact, with MASB. They said if we give them some dates, they'll put it up on their calendar, to come out. They can come out and give us a pre-search overview. I've also been in contact, with, Superintendent DeVault about potentially, getting someone here, superintendent on an interim basis, if that's what we choose to do. And he has a couple of people already that have expressed interest, in doing so. And the third piece that we talked about was looking at potentially, sharing, services of a superintendent. Superintendent DeVault is willing to look into that option as well for us. So all the three options that we talked about, they're all feasible. Two of them are in the works, and the other one is just, we have to give them some dates, and they'll put that, they'll make the calendar. We have to pay for the trip here, but as a member, that's a free service we get in terms of the service they bring to tell us about the requirements and what the do's and don'ts and ins and outs of a superintendent search. So those are my comments. The chair would entertain. Yes, sir.
I have a question about that.
Yes, sir.
The evaluation process, those three options, I know one, we would have to be responsible for the evaluation of the superintendent. What about the option 2 and 3?
The evaluation of the superintendent.
Right.
Yes, sir.
We have to, by law, we have to evaluate the superintendent, correct?
Yeah, but if it's a contract person, then you would.
I know the contract person, I know the shared service person, but the other one is totally different. We have to start that process up.
I don't know how that would go if our year, in our bylaws, it starts January to December. If we brought somebody in July or June, I'd have to find out from somebody who knows more than me about how that process would work.
If I'm not mistaken.
How would you do somebody bring them halfway in halftime, to be evaluated?
If I'm not mistaken, we will have to perform an evaluation, but it won't be a weighted evaluation because it's only half of a year. So we'll still, and that's based off of the goals that we set. So whatever those goals are that we set, we'll evaluate, but it won't be a weighted. Whereas it won't go towards their full evaluation because it's a half of a year.
Mr. Brewley.
How are we going to agree on a date? What are suggestions or?
Say the sooner the better for the.
Well, I was instructed
MASB.
to look into it. I wasn't going to commit a date.
No, I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But how, so as a board, should we discuss that now and get a date?
I almost want to say, are we going to do it next month? If we do it next month, what about our workshop? That would be the next logical date to
What
meet.
is the date of that, please?
I don't know.
So do you have your calendar?
Oh, here's a question too about.
Okay, so
about
18th, is it the 11th?
Yeah, I
Do you
think it
want
would be the
to come
11th.
anyway? Are we choosing the three options? Are we choosing one of the three, or what are we doing with that?
That would be the
Because
12th, March 12th.
Oh, it's the 12th.
Yep.
And then, I think we had an excellent workshop. I appreciate all the speakers we had, but we weren't left with coming to conclusions about either what we wanted to see if we were to hire a person, or the other two that you spoke of exploring.
I did.
So, should we finish on the 12th, all of those things?
Yeah.
Because I did speak with Mike DeVault, and he said that there is one more scenario that they're going to put together for you and get that, and I had hoped that I would get it today, but I guess they're still working on it.
Outside of what?
No, that's a whole different. He's working on the other scenario they got is a K-5.
Oh,
scenario.
that scenario, okay.
That's what they're working on.
Well, should we specify that the 12th is then the date that we hear the MSB, that we hear these other proposals, and that we finish our deliberations on what we want to see?
Well, Mike, I mean, if we're going down the track of looking at an interim for a year while we, I don't, that's something that I don't know if we necessarily need a presentation. I mean, if that's the route we decide to go, we want to sit down and talk with the individual or individuals that he has in mind of bringing over. And if we do it that way, if we do use an interim that the ISD helps us find and provides us, they will provide some of the funding for that position. It wouldn't be all out of our general fund budget to finance the salary of that person.
And I appreciate that. I'm looking for a time that we as a board, a date, if it's the 12th, it's fine with me, that we go through all of those possibilities and that we establish criteria by which we would want an interim, a superintendent, or an anybody to come in so that they would know our expectations ahead of time. So I'm just asking, is the 12th that day?
I say the sooner the better.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I don't think we can, I don't want to wait till next workshop. I think it should be sooner than that.
And
Because as long as we push it back, as long as, you know how it is at the end of the year, then everything comes together, the new, the amendment to the budget, we got, and all that stuff comes in, it's,
well, I would personally concur with you, but that's why I want a date certain.
Yeah.
Is a week from Thursday? Is that reasonable?
I am fine
The
for
27th?
any
Well, whatever.
evening, time,
I'm not available.
whatever it is.
I'm only available, for me, I'm only available by phone on the 27th.
When would you be available next week?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you say next week? Wow, that's not,
What I will do is I will contact MASB tomorrow and find out what dates that the presenter would be available to come talk to us and send those dates out to everybody and see if it works out for everybody. Because
Well, I appreciate that, but if we have everyone here now, if we could give you a list of dates that were available, that might be easier than the email thing doesn't seem to work.
I'm good with whatever date.
people will respond to emails, it works. But when they
Right.
don't respond to it, it doesn't work.
unfortunately, I'm not available next week. I'm available in March.
The only night I can't next week is Wednesday. I'm open any other evening. I mean,
Yeah, and I will make myself available.
I could do Tuesday, but that's about it. Do we have to have a in-person meeting? Can it be a conference call? I know we're not making it, are we making a decision that has to be voted on?
No.
no, it's just
No, we just did a
information.
presentation,
Oh.
just
Oh.
doing a presentation.
Oh, well, that's different then. Okay, never mind.
Well, who can come. I mean, it's kind of hard to get everybody under the same roof sometimes. We should still
That's
move
also
forward with
fine
it.
me, but I just want to try and
Right.
facilitate what responses.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a problem when you try to deal with calendars.
Right.
You got
Can you be available by phone?
people are always busy.
Yes,
So Thursday of next week, you could be available by phone,
yes.
okay?
I'm
Does
good with
anyone have a
that.
problem with that date?
Nope.
Okay. See if we can do it.
So the 27th.
And of course, it's contingent on what the.
Right, exactly,
trend
but if we
Right.
ask them to do it, they might be able to accommodate that.
27. Okay.
Okay.
I will contact and let everybody know.
Sounds good.
Anything else for the good of the order? I think let's go it again. The chair would entertain a motion to
Already
adjourn.
did.
Already did. I second it.
She got to call roll.
Oh, that's right, we did that, okay.
Okay.
Well, see, no, we didn't technically, because when you move in second, there is no discussion.
Right.
So that motion was
Voided.
killed when we started all this.
Come on, Earl,
Let's
make
do
it
it again.
So move.
Second. All right, there we go. Call the roll, please. That's what.
Mr.
We
Monk,
got two.
Dr. McFadden,
Yes.
Ms. Escalante.
Yes.
Mr. Bruley,
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett,
Yes.
and Mr. Rickman.
Yes. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 9:12 in the PM. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.